Hi there, this is Whitney from PolicyPak Tech Support, and in this video I'm going to show you how to create real group policy and PolicyPak directives and export them for use with our not group policy method, like your on-prem SCCM or if you're using your own MDM service. By now you've probably seen a lot of great videos showing you a bunch of awesome things that PolicyPak can do. Delivering settings using group policy, giving single applications elevated rights for standard users, you can block naughty websites, all kinds of great things. But what if you aren't using group policy? What if you're using SCCM or KACE or LanDesk, or you've got some other reason for wanting to get PolicyPak directives and settings on your workstations, but you don't want to use group policy to do it? Lucky for us, PolicyPak works with whatever you're running, and I'm going to show you how. You can also find this information in the Advanced Concepts Manual, specifically in the section called Deploying PolicyPak On-Prem Suite Directives Without Group Policy. We will be working with the GPMC to create GPOs with the settings that you want, but then we're going to export those settings, wrap them up in an MSI file, and then you can deploy them using whatever method you prefer. No group policy necessary. Each component of PolicyPak Suite, the Application Settings Manager, the Admin Templates Manager, Browser Router, and so on, has a slightly different way to export their settings, so let's walk through that quickly. For the sake of this video, I've created a GPO with a few settings in each component, so let's go look at how to export the settings on each component. For the Application Settings Manager, which allows you to manage your users' applications, I've created a directive here for WinZip 14, just as a very simple example. I am going to dictate that the minimum password length is 11 characters. All of these complexity boxes are checked. We right-clicked here. We want to hide that from our users so they won't even be able to see it. And from the Cameras tab, right-click, we've disabled this whole tab. So we've created that directive and we're done. Now, we need to export that as XML. So we can right-click here and we can export settings to XML data file. I've created a folder here for my XML files. So we'll call that WinZip settings. Now it's done. So let's quickly run through the rest of the components and how to export their settings. For the Admin Templates Manager, which allows you to consolidate existing group policy settings and deploy user-side group policy settings to computers, I've created a collection of directives. Here, I can either right-click on a single directive once it shows up and export as XML, or I can right-click here, I can export a collection as an XML, or I can right-click here and choose Export All Collections as XML. There's options. So let's right-click here. Let's export that. Call it Screensavers. And we're done. For the Preferences Manager, this node is actually specifically designed to allow you to deploy group policy preferences using not group policy, whether that's SCCM or KACE or what have you. You'll need to create your settings in your group policy preferences here. Like I have done, I've created a shortcut that's going to show up on my desktop. And now I go down to the Preferences Manager and I have two options. I can either right-click here and export this GPO's user-side GP prefs, or I can show wizard. Either one takes you to the same thing. So we'll click next. This is the directive, so we'll go ahead and click next here. Here we can change the name if we like. I'm happy with this one. You also have the option to do item level targeting here as well to allow you to choose where it applies or does not apply. We'll click next. We'll choose where we want to have it. Click next. And that's it. We're done. Now for the Security Settings Manager, this allows you to do essentially the same thing as with the Preferences Manager, only with security settings instead. So you'll need to go down to Policies, Windows Settings, Security Settings, and I've created a software restriction policy with trusted publishers here. So now that I've done that, we will go to the Security Settings Manager and again, right-click and export here or show wizard. Now please note right here that the following policy types are not supported. Now let's click next. We see that my settings are in fact exportable, so let's click next again. Here we have the option to do item level targeting again. I'm not going to do that today, so we'll go ahead and click next once again. As before, we'll choose where we want to put this. Save. Yes, we want to create it. Next. And we're done. Moving right along. For Browser Router, which allows us to route the right website to the right browser and block the naughty websites, I've already created a couple of collections here that routes the certain websites to certain browsers and blocks other websites. I can either right-click on the collection itself as before, export collection. I can export collection here. I can right-click and export collections as XML. Since I've got two, I'll go ahead and do that. We'll save. And we're done. With Least Privilege Manager, which allows you to kill local admin rights and elevate only the applications you need, you'll create your directives like I've done here. And again, we can right-click and export. We can export collection, or we can right-click and export collections. If we do this, this will export all of our directives here. Call this Least Privilege Manager. And we're done. One more time. The Java Rules Manager, which allows you to configure websites to use the version of Java that you choose or block Java websites altogether, works just like the rest of them, but it only works on a per computer basis. So you need to do this on the computer side. So I have my directive created here, and just as before, right-click, export. We can also export or export. So let's do this. Java Rules Manager. We're done. File Associations Manager, like the Java Rules Manager, only works on a per computer basis as well, so you'll need to create your directives on the computer side here too. File Associations Manager allows you to configure which program runs which particular types of files or protocols. So you'll create your directives or collections, then export them the same way as you did with Java Rules Manager. Let's go ahead and export this. File Associations Manager. Save it, and we're done. Now that we've exported these XML files, what are we going to do with them? Well, since we want to deploy our directives using the not group policy method, we need to use the PolicyPak exporter utility. This will wrap up your XML files into a neat little MSI package that can then be deployed using whatever software you're the most comfortable with. Again, whether that be KACE, SCCM, Intune, MobileIron, or whatever you have. We're going to open up the exporter tool found in the PolicyPak node within the Start menu, and then we're going to choose to create a new MSI installer. We'll click Next, and here we have a couple of different options, but the one we're going to choose is Add Existing Files, which will be those XML files that we created a little earlier. I'm going to choose WinZip settings by way of example, but you can add multiple XML files here. You don't have to do just one. Here you can also install for users or groups. Because I created my directive on the user side, it automatically wants to go users or groups, but I'm going to switch it over to computers here. If you didn't specify item level targeting when you created the directive in the first place, you can double click on the file here, go to Options, Enable Item Level Targeting, and then go to Edit Item Level Targeting Filters. Here you'll have to choose from a number of filters designating who the directive does and does not apply to. When you do that, you'll see that the word under ILT here will change from no to yes, but since I didn't do that, it stays at no. We'll click Next again. And here we can give it a name. I'm going to call it WinZip Settings. And we'll click Next. Next, it'll ask where we want to save it. I'm going to save it on my shared folder here. Call it WinZip Settings. We'll save. And we're done. That was it. We've wrapped this up into a really neat little MSI that you can deploy however you would like to, whatever method is most preferential for you. In this particular video, I'm going to install it by hand, but like I said, any way you want is the best way. Next, we're going to go to my workstation here, and I'm going to show you what WinZip looks like before we deploy the MSI file and what it looks like afterwards. So let's go to Passwords, 8 characters, none of these are checked, and we can get to the Cameras tab. Let's close this out. Let's go to our shared folder here. We'll open this up, give it some credentials,
That was it. It happened that fast. Let's close this out. Let's open up WinZip and see what we're looking at now. Oh, there we are. Minimum password length is now 11. These are all checked, and this one you can't even see. And you'll see this cameras tab is grayed out. We can't even access it anymore. It's just that easy. One last thing before we finish up here, I want to show you how the exporter tool can also edit an MSI that you've already created. Maybe you had an MSI with a gaggle of settings and now you've got a new program that you want to manage, or your standards changed so you need to update that MSI. We'll just open up that exporter tool again. We'll choose Open an existing MSI installer previously generated by this tool for editing. I'm going to choose the one I had already. And here you can do as you could before. You can edit your item level targeting. You can import new XML files. You can also choose, of course, with your new ones to install for computer or users and groups, and so on. We'll click Next again. PolicyPak automatically versions this for you. And also let's note that the MSIs that are deployed as an upgrade will automatically uninstall the old versions, which is pretty handy. We'll click Next again. Decide where we want to save it. And we're finished once again. If you're looking to get started with PolicyPak, the best first step is to sign up for our webinar to learn all of the things PolicyPak can do. Then we'll hand over the bits and you'll be off to the races for your very own trial of PolicyPak. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next video.